The fluorescent lights in the ICU hummed with a frequency that most people stopped hearing after the first week. Clara Voss still heard it. She had been hearing it for 18 years. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the night shift at County General moved with the rhythm of a machine winding down. The kind of quiet that wasn't peaceful, just empty. The kind that made footsteps sound louder than they should. Clara moved through it like water. Room 4 first. Mr. Delgado, 72. Post-surgical. Vitals stable but sedated. She checked the monitor without looking at it. Her eyes already knew the numbers before they registered. Heart rate, 68. BP, 118/76. Oxygen saturation, 96%. She adjusted the pillow beneath his head, not because it needed adjusting, because it would make a difference when he woke up at 3 a.m. disoriented and in pain. No one would know she did it. That was fine. She moved to room 6. Mrs. Chatterjee, 68. Pneumonia. Third night in a row with labored breathing. Clara listened to her chest with the stethoscope, counted the crackles in her lower left lung, then made a note on the chart. Should we increase the steroid dose? The voice came from behind her. Young. Confident. Male. Clara didn't turn around. No, she said quietly. Dr. Ben Coulter stepped into the room, tablet in hand, white coat too clean for someone 4 hours into a shift. He was new. 6 months out of residency. Still thought the tablet made him look competent. Her inflammation markers are elevated, he said, scrolling with his thumb. Standard protocol would be... She's responding to the current dose, Clara interrupted, still facing the patient. Her breathing improved 8% since yesterday. Increasing it now would suppress her immune response. She'd get worse in 48 hours. Coulter blinked. That's not what the chart says. Clara finally turned. Her face was neutral. Tired. The kind of tired that wasn't from one shift, but from 1,000. The chart doesn't listen to her lungs at 2 a.m. when no one else is here, Clara said. I do. Coulter's jaw tightened. He looked at Mrs. Chatterjee, then back at Clara. I'll make the call, he said. You will, Clara replied. She walked past him without waiting for a response. The nurse's station was a small island of light in a hallway that stretched too long in both directions. Clara sat down, pulled the keyboard toward her, and began updating patient notes. Her handwriting on paper was neat, surgical, but she typed faster. She logged Mr. Delgado's vitals, flagged Mrs. Chatterjee's file with a note, monitor closely, do not escalate steroid without consultation. She knew Coulter wouldn't read it, but the attending in the morning would. Still here, Voss? Clara didn't look up. She knew the voice. Sharon Mehta, unit supervisor, 40-something. Burned out, but good at pretending otherwise. I'm always here, Clara said. Yeah, I noticed. Sharon leaned against the counter, arms folded. You've logged 62 hours this week. We're not supposed to let you go past 60. Then don't count the last 2. Clara. Sharon. You've got PTO stacked up. Take a day. I'll think about it. No, you won't. Clara saved the file and closed the screen. She finally looked up. Her eyes were gray. Flat. The kind of eyes that didn't give anything away. Is there something you need? Clara asked. Sharon studied her for a moment, then shook her head. No, she said quietly. Just don't burn out on me, okay? I won't. Clara sat alone in the glow of the monitor. She pulled her water bottle from under the desk, took a sip, and checked her watch. 12:03 a.m. She stood, rolled her shoulders once, then walked toward room 9. Room 9 was different. The lights were dimmed. The ventilator hissed softly in the corner. An old man lay in the bed, eyes half open but unseeing. Stage 4, liver failure. No family. No visitors. The attending had signed the comfort care order 2 days ago. Clara stepped inside and closed the door behind her. She didn't check the monitors. She already knew what they said. Instead, she pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. "Mr. Brennan," she said softly. He didn't respond. His breathing was shallow, irregular. Clara reached out and adjusted the blanket over his chest. Then she just sat there. She didn't speak, didn't pray, didn't offer comfort that he couldn't hear. She just stayed, because no one should die alone. At 12:19 a.m., his breathing stopped. Clara waited 30 seconds. Then she reached over and pressed the call button. The monitor flatlined with a steady tone. Footsteps came running. Another nurse, a resident. They moved quickly, efficiently, but Clara was already standing, stepping back, making room. "Time of death, 12:19, the resident said, checking his watch. Clara nodded. She made a note on the chart. Then she walked out. The break room smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant. Clara sat in the corner chair, the one with the torn vinyl that nobody else liked. She pulled her sandwich from her bag, turkey, no cheese, no condiments, and unwrapped it slowly. She took a bite, chewed, stared at the wall. The door opened. 2 nurses came in, mid-conversation, laughing about something. They grabbed sodas from the vending machine and left without noticing her. Clara finished her sandwich in silence. She checked her watch again. 12:47 a.m. 5 more hours. She stood, tossed the wrapper in the trash, and walked back into the hallway. At 1:15 a.m., Clara was restocking the supply closet in the west wing when she heard it. A sound that didn't belong. She stopped. Hand on a box of gauze. Head tilted slightly. Footsteps, fast, deliberate, then voices, low, tense. She stepped out of the closet and looked down the corridor. 2 men in dark suits. Federal marshals, by the look of them. One was on the phone. The other was scanning the hallway like he expected trouble. They stopped outside room 12. Clara walked toward them. Not fast, not slow, just steady. "Can I help you?" she asked. The marshal on the phone glanced at her, then away, dismissed her in half a second. "We're fine," he said. Clara looked past him through the window into room 12. A man lay in the bed. 30s, sedated, handcuffed to the rail. She'd seen the intake file earlier. Gunshot wound to the shoulder. No name, no insurance. Flagged as federal. She looked back at the marshals. "He's my patient," she said. The one on the phone lowered it slightly. "We'll let you know if we need anything." Clara held his gaze for one more second. Then she nodded and walked away. But as she turned the corner, her hand slipped into her scrub pocket. She pulled out a small notepad, clicked a pen, and wrote, "Room 12, federal witness, 2 marshals. Breach protocol active." She tucked it back into her pocket and kept walking. At 2:30 a.m., the ICU was silent again. Clara sat at the nurse's station, updating charts, her face lit by the blue glow of the screen. No one looked at her. No one asked her questions. She was just another night shift nurse, tired, invisible, forgotten, exactly the way she wanted it. But her eyes never stopped moving, and her mind never stopped counting. Exits, cameras, response times, old habits, the kind that don't die. The patient in room 12 didn't sleep like other patients. Clara noticed it. At 3:47 a.m., she was making her rounds, moving through the dim hallway with a medication cart that squeaked on the 3rd wheel. Most patients in the ICU were deep under sedation, exhaustion, or pain, pulling them into something that resembled rest. But the man in room 12 was different. His eyes moved beneath closed lids. Rapid. Tracking something. His jaw was clenched even in sleep, and his uncuffed hand rested on his chest with fingers slightly curled, not relaxed, ready. Clara stopped in the doorway. The marshals were gone. She checked her watch. Shift change. They'd be back in 10 minutes, maybe 15 if they stopped for coffee. She stepped inside and closed the door softly behind her, The man's wrist was cuffed to the bed rail with a standard issue restraint. Steel. Federal. The kind that didn't come off without a key or bolt cutters. Clara moved to the monitor, checked his vitals without touching him. Heart rate, 82. Elevated for someone sedated. Blood pressure, 128/84, higher than it should be. She looked at his chart. Gunshot wound, left shoulder. Entry and exit. Clean. Surgical repair completed 18 hours ago. Prognosis stable, but the notes were thin. No name, no medical history, just a case number and a federal flag. Clara's eyes moved to his hands. Calluses on the fingertips, old scars across the knuckles, a faint tan line on his left ring finger where a wedding band used to be. She looked at his neck, a tattoo partially visible above the hospital gown, black ink, geometric military unit insignia, maybe, or something else. She pulled the gown down slightly, just enough to see. It was a unit insignia, Marine Force Recon. Clara let the fabric fall back into place. Her expression didn't change. She reached for the IV line, checked the drip rate, then adjusted the saline flow by a fraction. Not enough to wake him, just enough to keep him stable if something went wrong. Behind her, the door opened. Clara didn't turn. She finished adjusting the line first. "You're not supposed to be in here." The voice was sharp. Female. Clara turned slowly. A woman stood in the doorway, late 30s, dark suit. Federal ID clipped to her belt. Not a marshal, something else. The way she stood, the way her hand hovered near her hip, told Clara everything. FBI, maybe DOJ. "I'm his nurse," Clara said evenly. "And I'm his protection detail," the woman replied, "which means no one gets near him without clearance." Clara looked at her for a long moment. Then she gestured to the monitor. "His heart rate's elevated. He's dehydrating. If you want him alive, for whatever testimony you need, someone has to monitor him." The woman's eyes narrowed. She stepped further into the room, letting the door close behind her. "You read his file. I read his chart," Clara said. "There's a difference." The woman studied her. Then she glanced at the patient, then back at Clara. "How long have you been a nurse?" 18 years. All of it here?" "Most of it." The woman nodded slowly. She pulled out a phone, checked something, then slipped it back into her pocket. "My name's Agent Carver," she said. "DOJ, witness security." "He have a name?" Clara asked, nodding toward the patient. "Not one I can give you." "Then I'll call him John." Carver almost smiled. "Almost. You do that." Then she turned to leave. "Nurse." Clara stopped. "If anyone asks about him," Carver said quietly, "you don't remember. Understand?" Clara looked back over her shoulder. "I never do," she said, and walked out. At 4:32 a.m., Clara was in the medication room, counting morphine doses and logging them into the system. The room was small, windowless, and smelled like antiseptic and plastic. She was alone. She preferred it that way. The door opened behind her. Clara didn't look up. She kept counting. "You got a second?" It was one of the other night nurses. Young guy. Marcus. Good with IVs, bad with authority. "Not really," Clara said. "Yeah, well, something's weird." Clara finished her count, logged it, then turned. Marcus was leaning against the door frame, arms folded, looking uncomfortable. "Weird how?" Clara asked. "Those feds outside room 12. There were 2 marshals earlier. Now there's some lady with a DOJ badge. And I saw her on the phone in the stairwell, talking about breach protocol and internal compromise." Clara's face didn't change. "You were eavesdropping," she said. "I was getting coffee," Marcus shot back. She was loud. Clara walked past him into the hallway. "Not your problem." "You've been here forever," You ever seen something like this? Like what? Feds. Locked down patient. No name, no family. And now they're talking about leaks. Clara stopped walking. She turned to face him. Marcus, she said quietly, you want to keep your job? Yeah? Then stop asking questions about things that don't concern you. But go check on Mrs. Patel in room 7. Her O2 sat was dropping earlier. Then he nodded, muttered something under his breath, and walked away. Clara watched him go. Then she turned and walked toward the stairwell. The stairwell was concrete and cold, lit by a single bulb on each landing. Clara pushed through the door and stopped on the first step. She listened. Footsteps above her, 2 floors up. Then a door opened and closed. Clara pulled out her notepad and flipped to the page she'd written earlier. Room 12. Federal witness. 2 marshals. Breach protocol active. She clicked her pen and added, Agent Carver. DOJ witness security. Internal compromise suspected. Then she tucked it away and climbed the stairs. At 5:18 a.m., Clara was back at the nurse's station when the call came through. The phone on the desk rang once. Clara picked it up. ICU, nurse boss. Silence on the other end. Then a voice. Low. Male. Is this the unit with the federal patient? Clara's hand tightened on the receiver. Who is this? She asked. I need to know if he's still there. I can't give you that information. I'm not asking for his condition. Just his location. Clara didn't answer. She let the silence stretch. The man on the other end exhaled slowly. Listen, he said. I'm trying to help him, but if he's still in that room, he's not safe. Then you should call the agents protecting him, Clara said. I can't. That's the problem. Clara's eyes moved to room 12. The door was closed. A shadow moved behind the frosted glass. Who are you? Clara asked again. The line went dead. Clara set the phone down slowly. She stared at it for 3 seconds. Then she stood and walked toward room 12. Agent Carver was standing outside the door, phone pressed to her ear. Her face was tight, focused. Clara approached. Carver held up a hand without looking at her. Not now. She didn't leave. Carver finished her call, lowered the phone, and turned. I said not now. Someone just called the nurse's station, Clara said quietly. Asked if your witness was still here. What did you tell them? Nothing. What did they say? That he's not safe. That they couldn't call you. Carver's jaw tightened. She looked past Clara, down the hallway, then back. Man or woman? Man, accent. None. Professional. Carver pulled her phone out again, dialed, and turned away. Clara heard fragments of the conversation. Breach confirmed. Internal. Lockdown protocol. Carver ended the call and looked at Clara. How many exits on this floor? Clara didn't hesitate. 3. Main elevator. Service elevator. North stairwell. Cameras. 4. Hallway junction. Nurse's station. Main entrance. And 1 over the service elevator. Carver stared at her. You memorized the security layout? Clara met her eyes. I've been here 18 years. I know the building. Carver studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Stay away from this room, she said. Understood? Understood. Carver turned and went back inside room 12. The door locked behind her. Clara stood in the hallway for 5 seconds. Then she walked back to the nurse's station, pulled out her notepad, and wrote, Phone call, 5:18 a.m. male, professional, knows patient location, Carver escalating. She closed the notepad and waited. At 6:04 a.m., the East Wing security camera went offline. Clara noticed it immediately. The small monitor behind the nurse's station showed a grid of camera feeds. One of them, the view of the main hallway leading to room 12, had gone black. She stood, walked over, tapped the screen. Nothing. She picked up the phone and dialed security. It rang 6 times. No answer. Clara hung up. She looked down the hallway toward room 12. The lights were still on. Nothing looked wrong, but something was. She could feel it. She walked toward the supply closet near the nurse's station, opened it, and reached behind a stack of linens. Her hand found a small black radio hospital maintenance frequency. She clicked it on. Security, this is ICU. Camera down on East Wing. Confirm status. Static. Then a voice. Male. Tired. Yeah, we see it. Probably a short. Someone's checking it now. She clicked the radio off and put it back. She stood in the hallway, hands in her pockets, eyes on room 12. The door was still closed. Agent Carver's shadow moved behind the glass. Clara checked her watch. 6:11 a.m. shift change in 49 minutes. She turned and walked back to the nurse's station. But she didn't sit down. She stood, watching, waiting, because 18 years of night shifts had taught her one thing. When something feels wrong, it usually is. At 6:34 a.m., Clara heard the footsteps, not from the main entrance, not from the elevators, from the north stairwell. She turned her head slightly, listened. 3 people, maybe 4, moving fast but trying to stay quiet. She stood and walked toward the stairwell door. It opened before she reached it. 2 men stepped out, dressed like contractors, black jackets, cargo pants. One had a radio earpiece. The other carried a duffel bag. They stopped when they saw her. Wrong floor, Clara said calmly. The one with the earpiece looked at her, then past her, down the hallway toward room 12. We're looking for someone, he said. This is a restricted unit. We have clearance. Then show me. He didn't move. Neither did his partner. Clara's hands stayed at her sides. Her voice stayed level. If you're not hospital staff and you don't have federal ID, you need to leave. The man with the duffel bag smiled. It wasn't friendly. You always this brave? He asked. Clara didn't answer. The first man's hand moved toward his jacket. Behind Clara, a door opened. Agent Carver stepped into the hallway, weapon drawn. Federal agent, hands where I can see them. The 2 men froze. Carver didn't move closer. She just stood there, gun steady, eyes sharp. Nurse, she said without looking away from the men. Step back. Clara didn't move. Now, Carver said. Clara took 2 steps backward. The man with the earpiece raised his hand slowly. We're contractors, he said. Private security. We were hired to... I don't care, Carver interrupted. Turn around. Walk back down those stairs. If I see you again, I'll arrest you. The 2 men exchanged a glance. Then they turned and disappeared into the stairwell. The door closed. Carver lowered her weapon. She looked at Clara. What did I tell you? Stay away from room 12, Clara said. I was at the nurse's station. They came to me. Carver exhaled. She holstered her weapon and pulled out her phone. This place isn't secure anymore, she said, half to herself. We need to move him. She walked back toward room 12, already dialing. Clara stood in the hallway. Alone again, she pulled out her notepad and wrote, 6:34 a.m., 2 contractors, north stairwell, Carver engaged, relocation imminent. She closed the notepad and went back to work. Because that's what nurses do, even the ones who used to hunt people for a living. The call came at 7:02 a.m. Clara was restocking gauze in the supply closet when she heard the overhead speaker crackle. Code Silver ICU East Wing. Code Silver. Armed intruder. She set the box down carefully and stepped into the hallway. The fluorescent lights flickered once, twice. Then the emergency lighting kicked in, dim red running along the baseboards. Clara's heartbeat didn't change. Her breathing stayed even. She walked toward the nurse's station. The hallway was empty, too empty. Doors to patient rooms stood open. Beds were being wheeled toward the west wing by staff she didn't recognize. Day shift, early arrivals, moving fast but controlled. Evacuation protocol, but no alarms, no chaos. Just the quiet hum of a plan already in motion. Clara reached the nurse's station. The monitors were still live, but 2 more camera feeds had gone black. She picked up the phone, dialed security again. No answer. She hung up and turned toward room 12. The door was open. Agent Carver stood in the doorway, phone pressed to her ear, her other hand resting on the grip of her holstered weapon. Clara walked toward her. Carver saw her coming and held up a hand. Stop. Clara stopped 3 feet away. Carver finished her call, lowered the phone, and looked at Clara with eyes that were no longer calm. Where's the nearest secure exit? Carver asked. Service elevator, west wing. But if you're moving him, you'll need a gurney and at least 1 nurse. I've got transport coming. How long? 8 minutes. Clara looked past her into room 12. The patient, John, was awake now, groggy but aware. His eyes tracked Carver's movements with the focus of someone who'd been trained to assess threats, even under sedation. He can't walk, Clara said. I know, and you can't carry him alone. Carver's jaw tightened. I said transport's coming. In 8 minutes. You might not have 8 minutes. Carver turned to face her fully. What do you know? 2 contractors came through the north stairwell 28 minutes ago. You turned them away. They didn't leave the building. How do you know? Because if they left, your witness wouldn't still be here. Carver stared at her. Then she pulled her weapon. Stay here, she said. Don't let anyone in this room. Where are you going? To find them. Carver moved past Clara and walked quickly toward the stairwell, weapon low but ready. Clara watched her go. Then she stepped into room 12 and closed the door. The man in the bed was watching her. His eyes were dark, clear. The grogginess was gone. You're the nurse from earlier, he said. His voice was rough, dry. Clara moved to the IV stand and checked the line. I'm Clara, she said. Where's Carver? Securing the floor. That's a nice way of saying she's hunting. Clara glanced at him. You're law enforcement. It wasn't a question. He almost smiled. Was? Now I'm a liability. Federal witness protection. Something like that. Clara finished checking the IV. Then she moved to the monitor and noted his vitals. Heart rate, 94. Elevated but stable. You know they're coming for you, Clara said quietly. Yeah, you know they might get through. Yeah. So are you. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then he nodded toward the handcuff on his wrist. You got a key for this? No. Bolt cutters. He exhaled slowly. Great. Clara pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. What's your real name? She asked. Does it matter? Not really. He studied her. You're not scared. Should I be? Most people would be. Clara didn't answer. He tilted his head slightly. You're not most people, are you? Before Clara could respond, the lights went out. Total darkness. Not even the emergency lights. Clara didn't move. She counted 3 seconds in her head. Then the backup generator kicked in. The lights came back, dimmer now, yellowed. She stood and walked to the door, looked through the window. The hallway was empty. No staff, no security, no Carver. Just shadows and the low hum of failing power. Clara turned back to the patient. We need to move you, she said, with one hand cuffed to a bed. Then we move the bed. You're serious. Can you hold on with your free hand? Yeah, then do it. She moved to the head of the bed and gripped the rail. The bed was heavy, industrial reinforced, but it had wheels. She pulled. It moved. Slowly, but it moved. Where are we going? He asked. Supply closet. End of the hall, no windows, reinforced door. That's your plan? Hide in a closet? You have a better one? He didn't answer. Clara pulled the bed into the hallway. The wheels squeaked. The sound echoed too loud in the silence. She moved quickly but didn't run. Controlled. Steady. Behind her, a door opened. She stopped. Turned. 3 men stepped out of the north stairwell. Not the same 2 from earlier. Different faces. Same gear. Black tactical clothing. No badges. No markings. The one in front had a weapon. Compact submachine gun. Suppressed. He saw Clara. Saw the bed. Saw the patient. He raised the weapon. Stop, he said. Clara stopped. The man walked toward her. His 2 partners spread out, flanking. Step away from the bed, he said. Clara didn't move. Now, he's sedated. Clara said calmly, post-surgical. He can't be moved without medical supervision. The man stopped 5 feet away. I'm not asking again. Clara looked at him. Really looked. Mid-30s. Caucasian, clean-shaven, professional, former military probably. The way he held the weapon, the way he moved, trained. You were Army, Clara said quietly. He blinked. What? Ranger tab. You've still got the posture and the grip on that HK textbook. Fort Benning, maybe 10 years ago. The man's eyes narrowed. Who the hell are you? Clara didn't answer. One of the other men stepped forward. Boss, we don't have time for this. The leader didn't look away from Clara. Get her out of the way. The second man moved toward Clara. She took 1 step to the side, just enough to put herself between him and the patient. Don't, she said. The second man stopped. He looked at his leader. The leader raised his weapon slightly, aimed it at Clara's chest. Last chance, he said. Clara's voice stayed level. Calm. You fire that weapon in here. You'll rupture the oxygen line behind me. This wing will burn in 90 seconds. You'll die before you get your witness out. The leader's eyes flicked past her, to the wall, to the yellow oxygen line running along the ceiling. He hesitated. Clara continued. There are also 4 cameras still active on this floor. You've been recorded since you entered. Federal response time is 6 minutes. You've been here 3. The leader lowered his weapon slightly. His jaw tightened. You're bluffing. Test it, Clara said. No one moved. Then from somewhere down the hall, a voice shouted, Federal agent, drop your weapons. Agent Carver. The 3 men turned. Carver stood at the end of the hallway, weapon raised, 2-handed grip. The leader's weapon came up fast. Don't, Carver warned. He didn't fire, but he didn't lower it either. Behind Clara, the patient spoke. Voss. Clara glanced back. He was looking at her with sharp, focused eyes. Get down. Clara dropped. The leader fired. The suppressed rounds punched through the air where Clara's head had been a second before, slamming into the wall behind Carver. Carver returned fire. 3 shots, controlled, precise. The leader went down. His 2 partners scattered, one into a patient room, the other toward the service elevator. Carver moved forward, weapon tracking. Clara stayed low, hands on the bed rail, keeping it stable. You hit? The patient asked. No. You sure? Yes. Carver reached them, breathing hard. Are you insane? Clara stood. He was going to shoot you. That's my job to handle. You were 50 feet away. He had a submachine gun. You had a sidearm. Carver opened her mouth, closed it, then shook her head. Get him to the service elevator. Now. Clara didn't argue. She pulled the bed forward. The patient looked at Carver. Where's the rest of your team? Dead, Carver said flatly. Both marshals. Stairwell. Throats cut. The patient's face went hard. When? 20 minutes ago. I found them when I went to check the breach. So we're alone. For now. Clara kept moving, Service elevators 30 feet. We can make it. Carver followed, weapon raised, scanning. They reached the elevator. Carver hit the call button. Nothing happened. She hit it again. Still nothing. They cut the power, Clara said. Then we take the stairs. He can't walk. Then we carry him. The patient shook his head. I'm 200 pounds. You're not carrying me down 4 flights. Then what? Carver snapped. Clara turned, looked back down the hallway, thought. Then she looked at Carver. You said federal response time is 6 minutes. Yeah. So? How long has it been since you called it in? Carver checked her watch. 9 minutes. Then, where are they? Carver's face went pale. Clara's expression didn't change, but her voice dropped. They're not coming, Clara said quietly. Are they? Carver didn't answer. From somewhere below them, a door slammed. Footsteps, multiple, coming up the stairwell. Carver spun toward the sound, weapon up. Clara looked at the patient, then at Carver. How many more? Clara asked. I don't know. Guess. 4, maybe 6. Clara nodded slowly. She looked down the hallway, then at the supply closet 20 feet away. We can't fight 6, Carver said. I know. We can't run. I know. So what do we do? Clara pulled the bed toward the supply closet. We buy time, she said. Carver stared at her. How? She just pulled the bed inside the closet, turned it so the patient was against the back wall, then stepped back out. What are you doing? The patient called. Clara looked at Carver. Give me your radio. Now. Carver pulled it off her belt and handed it over. Clara turned the volume down, switched to the federal frequency, and pressed the transmit button. This is ICU Nurse Clara Voss, she said calmly. Federal witness secure. Holding position. East wing supply closet. Hostiles inbound. Requesting immediate tactical support. Then a voice. Identify yourself. Clara's voice didn't waver. Deputy Director Clara Voss. FBI Tactical Operations Unit. Retired. Verify with DOJ. Then, stand by. Clara handed the radio back to Carver. Carver was staring at her. You're FBI? Clara met her eyes. I was. The supply closet smelled like bleach and sterile plastic. Clara stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, eyes fixed on the hallway outside. Behind her, the patient lay handcuffed to the bed, breathing shallow but steady. Agent Carver stood to Clara's left, weapon drawn, finger resting along the trigger guard. The radio on Carver's hip crackled softly. Verification complete. Deputy Director Voss, you are authorized. ETA on tactical support is 12 minutes. Hold your position. Carver stared at Clara. Her mouth opened, closed. Deputy Director, she whispered. Clara didn't look at her. Former. You didn't think to mention that. It didn't come up. It didn't. Carver exhaled sharply. What the hell are you doing working night shifts in an ICU? Same thing you're doing protecting a witness who's already been breached twice, Clara said quietly. My job. But she didn't argue. From the stairwell, the footsteps grew louder. Clara counted them in her head. 4 distinct patterns, heavy boots, tactical pace, not rushing, not slow, professional. She looked at Carver. How much ammunition do you have? 1 magazine in the weapon. 2 spares, 45 rounds total. Yeah, against 4 armed contractors. Probably more. She turned and looked at the patient. What's your real name? She asked. He met her eyes. Does it matter now? Yes. He hesitated. Then, Elijah Moss, former Marine Force Recon, now federal witness. I testified against my own unit. They were running side contracts, execution jobs. I tried to stop it. His voice was flat, empty. Now they're trying to stop me. Clara studied him for a moment. Then she turned back to the hallway. You did the right thing, she said. Doesn't feel like it. It never does. Carver glanced at Clara. You sound like you know. Clara didn't answer. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Clara's hand moved to her pocket. She pulled out her notepad and pen, wrote something quickly, then tore the page free and handed it to Carver. What's this? Carver asked. Building layout, blind spots, camera coverage, response routes. Carver looked at the paper, then at Clara. You memorized all this? 18 years, Clara said. You learned the terrain. Carver folded the paper and tucked it into her vest pocket. From the hallway, a voice called out, Federal agent, we know you're in there. Carver tensed. Clara didn't move. That's not law enforcement, Clara said quietly. How do you know? Because law enforcement would have identified themselves with a badge number and agency. That was a probe. A what? They're testing to see if we'll respond, seeing if we're scared. Carver's grip tightened on her weapon. Are you? Clara finally looked at her. No. Closer. You've got nowhere to go. The building's locked down. No one's coming. Clara raised her voice just enough to carry. You're right, she said calmly. No one's coming, which means no one's going to stop me from killing you when you step through that door. Silence. Then laughter. Low. Cold. You're a nurse. I'm also the person who knows exactly where the oxygen lines run in this building, Clara replied. And you're standing under one right now. Fire that weapon, and this floor turns into a fireball in 30 seconds. The laughter stopped. Clara continued, voice steady. Clinical. There are 4 of you. I counted your footsteps. You're using suppressed MP7s, probably 40-round magazines. You fired 12 rounds so far. That leaves you with 148 between the 4 of you. The hallway you're in is 80 feet long. No cover. 1 intersection. If you push, I can collapse that oxygen line with a single round into the regulator panel 6 feet to your left. The pressure differential will ignite the leaked O2 the moment you fire again. You'll die before you see us. No response. Carver was staring at Clara. Is that true? Yes. Would you actually do it? Clara didn't answer. From the hallway, a new voice. Older, calmer, Deputy Director Voss. Clara's eyes narrowed. You know who I am, the voice continued, and I know who you are. I also know you've been out of the game for 4 years. You're tired. You're alone, and you're protecting a man who betrayed his brothers. Clara's expression didn't change, but her voice dropped. If he's a traitor, then you're murderers. We're soldiers. Not anymore. Silence. Then, let us take him. Walk away. No one else has to die tonight. Clara took 1 step forward, out of the closet into the hallway. Carver hissed, What are you doing? She stood in the open now, hands at her sides, facing the direction of the voice. 4 men stood at the far end of the hallway. Tactical gear, weapons lowered but ready. The one in front was older, 50s. Gray hair, cropped short, hard eyes. He looked at Clara like he recognized something in her. You were FBI TAC Ops, he said. I was. Then you know how this works. You're outnumbered, outgunned. No backup. You can't win. I don't need to win, Clara said. I just need to hold this hallway for 12 more minutes. The man's eyes flickered. That's a long time. I've held longer. Then he gestured to his men. They spread out slightly, creating overlapping fields of fire. Clara didn't move. Last chance, Deputy Director, the man said. Step aside. Clara shook her head slowly. No, the man raised his weapon. Clara spoke before he could fire. You were Army, 10th Special Forces Group, Fort Carson. 20 years, maybe more. You taught close quarters combat. I can see it in your stance. The man hesitated. I also know you've never killed someone who wasn't a threat, Clara continued. Not in combat. Not in contracting. You've always had a reason, a mission, a target. He's the target. No, Clara said quietly. He's a witness. There's a difference. The man's jaw tightened. Clara took a step forward. You don't want to do this, she said. I can see it. You're a soldier, not an executioner. I have my orders. Orders from who? A PMC that hired you to cover their crimes? That's not a mission. That's murder for money. The man didn't respond. Clara took another step. Behind her, Carver whispered urgently, Voss, get back here. Clara ignored her. She was 10 feet from the lead contractor now. You were a good soldier, Clara said. I can see it. You led men, saved lives, completed missions no one else could. And now you're here, in a hospital pointing a gun at a nurse and a wounded man. Is this who you wanted to be? Clara asked. For a moment, no one moved. Then one of the younger contractors stepped forward. Boss, we don't have time for this. The older man held up a hand. Stand down. But, I said stand down. The younger man hesitated. Then he lowered his weapon. The older man looked at Clara. You're good, he said quietly. I'll give you that. I'm not trying to be good, Clara replied. I'm trying to stop you from making a mistake you can't take back. The man exhaled slowly. He glanced at his team. Then back at Clara. We can't just walk away. Yes, you can. They'll come after us. Let them. The man shook his head. You don't understand. We don't get to say no. Everyone gets to say no, Clara said. You just have to be willing to pay the price. The man stared at her. His weapon was still in his hands, but it wasn't aimed anymore. Behind Clara, Elijah spoke from the closet. She's right. The older contractor's eyes shifted past Clara to the patient. You betrayed your unit, he said. I stopped murderers, Elijah replied. Same thing you should be doing right now. The contractor's face hardened. Then, from behind him, the younger contractor raised his weapon. Screw this. He fired. 3 rounds. Suppressed. Aimed at Clara. Clara moved. Not fast, precise. She stepped left, angled her body, and dropped into a crouch in one smooth motion. The rounds passed through the space where she'd been standing a half-second before. Carver returned fire from the closet doorway. 2 shots. Center mass. The younger contractor went down. The older contractor spun. Weapon coming up. Don't, Clara said. He stopped, looked at her. She was crouched low, hands still empty, eyes locked on his. You fire that weapon now, you ignite the oxygen line, Clara said. Everyone dies, including you. The older man's finger hovered over the trigger. Behind him, his 2 remaining men had their weapons raised, one aimed at Clara, one at Carver. No one moved. The hallway was silent, except for the low hiss of the ventilation system and the ragged breathing of the wounded contractor on the floor. Clara stood slowly, hands still at her sides. You're a good man, she said quietly. I can see it. But if you pull that trigger, you stop being one. The older contractor's weapon trembled slightly. Then he lowered it. Stand down, he said to his men. Sir, I said stand down. The 2 men hesitated. Then they lowered their weapons. The older contractor looked at Clara. This doesn't end here, he said. I know they'll send more. I know. He nodded slowly. Then he gestured to his men. Pick him up. The 2 contractors moved to their wounded partner, lifted him between them, and carried him toward the stairwell. The older contractor backed away, weapon still in hand but pointed at the floor. At the stairwell door, he stopped and looked back. You should have stayed retired, Deputy Director. Clara met his eyes. So should you. He nodded once. Then he disappeared into the stairwell. The door closed. Silence. Carver stepped out of the closet, weapon still raised, scanning the hallway. Are they really gone? She asked. Clara didn't answer. She walked to the end of the hallway and looked through the window into the stairwell. Empty. She turned back. For now. Carver lowered her weapon. Her hands were shaking. What the hell was that? She asked. Negotiation. That was suicide. Clara walked past her into the supply closet. Elijah was watching her. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp. You didn't have a weapon, he said. I didn't need one. He could have killed you. He could have, but he didn't. Why? Clara checked his IV line, adjusted the flow rate, then looked at him. Because he's not a killer, she said quietly. He's just a soldier who forgot the difference. Elijah stared at her. You're terrifying. Clara almost smiled. I'm a nurse. Voss. Clara turned. That thing you said, about the oxygen line, about the explosion. Yes. Would it really have worked? Clara looked at her for a long moment. Yes, she said. Carver's eyes widened. You were going to blow the floor? If I had to, with us on it? Clara didn't answer. Carver opened her mouth, closed it. Then she shook her head. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Clara turned back to Elijah and finished checking his vitals. From the hallway, the radio crackled. Deputy Director Voss, this is FBI Tactical Team Alpha. We are 2 minutes out. Confirm your status. Carver grabbed the radio. Agent Carver, DOJ Witness Security. Hostiles have retreated. Witness is secure. We are holding position in the East Wing supply closet. Copy that. Maintain position. Do not engage. Carver clipped the radio back to her belt. She looked at Clara. 2 minutes, she said. Clara nodded. Then it's over. Elijah looked at her. Is it? Clara met his eyes. No, she said quietly. It's not. Because she knew something the others didn't. Men like that, trained, disciplined, loyal, didn't just walk away. They regrouped. And they came back. The FBI tactical team arrived in black SUVs with silent efficiency. No sirens, no lights. Just the low rumble of engines and the soft thud of boots on hospital linoleum. Clara watched them from the supply closet doorway. 8 operators, full tactical gear, helmets with mounted lights, rifles held low but ready. They moved like water through the hallway. Fluid, coordinated, lethal. The team leader approached. Tall, 40s, dark eyes that swept the scene in seconds. He stopped in front of Agent Carver. Agent Carver. That's me. He nodded once. Special Agent Marcus Hale. Tactical Response Unit. Where's Deputy Director Voss? Carver gestured behind her. Hale's eyes shifted to Clara. She stood in the doorway, still in her pale blue scrubs, hands in her pockets, hair pulled back. She looked exactly like what she was supposed to be, a middle-aged nurse at the end of a long shift. Hale stared at her for 3 seconds. Then he straightened slightly. Ma'am, he said. It wasn't a question. It was acknowledgement. Clara nodded. Agent Hale. Are you injured? No. The witness. Stable. Handcuffed to a bed. Post-surgical. He can be moved but needs medical supervision. Hale turned to his second in command. Get a gurney. 2 operators escort to the transport vehicle. Full perimeter. Yes, sir. The operator moved immediately. 2 others followed. Hale turned back to Clara. We were told you engaged 4 hostiles. Alone. 3, Clara corrected. Agent Carver engaged 1. You talked the others down. I gave them a choice. Hale's eyes narrowed slightly. You were unarmed. Yes, well, you stood in an open hallway with armed contractors and negotiated a retreat. Clara didn't respond. Hale glanced at Carver. That accurate? Carver nodded. She told them she'd blow the floor if they didn't stand down. I think she meant it. Hale looked back at Clara. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Respect. Maybe caution. We'll need a full debrief, he said. Later, Clara replied. Right now, your witness needs to be moved. The contractors who left will regroup. They'll have backup. You've got maybe 20 minutes before they hit again. You seem certain. I am. Why? Because that's what I would do. Hale nodded slowly. He keyed his radio. All units, expedite extraction. I want the witness mobile in 3 minutes. Repeat, 3 minutes. Responses crackled back. Affirmative. Copy. Behind Clara, 2 operators entered the supply closet with a gurney. They moved efficiently, transferring Elijah from the hospital bed to the transport gurney with practiced precision. Elijah winced but didn't make a sound. Clara stepped inside. She checked his IV, adjusted the oxygen line, then looked at one of the operators. Keep his left arm elevated. The gunshot wound is 18 hours old. Any jarring could reopen the sutures. The operator nodded. Understood. He was watching her with tired eyes. You're not coming, are you? He asked quietly. No. Why not? Because this is where I work. You could have died doing it. Clara pulled the blanket up over his chest, tucking it in at the sides like she'd done 1,000 times before. That's the job, she said. Which one, nurse or FBI? Both. Elijah held her gaze for a moment. Then he nodded. Thank you, he said. Clara didn't answer. She just stepped back and let the operators wheel him out. The hallway was a controlled chaos now. Tactical operators swept every room. Cameras were being checked. The elevator shaft was being secured. Clara stood near the nurse's station, arms folded, watching. Agent Hale approached again. We're clear to move, he said, but I need you to come with us. Clara looked at him. Why? Because you're a material witness. You engage the hostiles. You have tactical knowledge of their positions, their equipment, their behavior. We need your statement. I'll give it later. Ma'am, with respect. Agent Hale. Clara's voice was calm but final. I have patients on this floor. 6 of them were evacuated during the lockdown. They need to be brought back, reassessed, and stabilized. I'm the only night shift nurse left on duty. If I leave, those patients don't get care. Hale's jaw tightened. We can arrange for another nurse. In how long? He didn't answer. Clara's eyes didn't leave his. I'm not going anywhere until my shift ends. You want a statement, you can take it here. Or you can come back at 7:30 a.m. when I clock out. Hale stared at her, then slowly he nodded. Yes, ma'am. He stepped back and keyed his radio. Command, this is Hale. Witness is secure and mobile. We are proceeding with extraction. Deputy Director Voss will remain on site and provide a delayed debrief. A pause. Then, copy that. Hale looked at Clara one more time. You're either very brave or very stubborn. I'm a nurse, Clara said. It's the same thing. Hale almost smiled. Then he turned and walked toward the stairwell, coordinating his team's exit. Carver stayed behind. She stood next to Clara, watching the tactical team disappear down the stairs with Elijah's gurney between them. You really not going with them? Carver asked. No. Why? Clara looked at her. Would you leave your post? Carver was quiet for a moment. Then she shook her head. No. Then you know why. They stood in silence. Then Carver pulled a card from her vest pocket and handed it to Clara. My number, she said, if you remember anything else, or if those contractors come back. Then slipped it into her scrub pocket. They won't come back, Clara said. You sure? They got what they wanted. They didn't get the witness. No, but they got information. They know federal response time. They know our tactics. They know we're watching. Clara turned to face Carver. They'll change strategy. Go after him somewhere else, somewhere we're not expecting. Carver's face tightened. Then Elijah's still in danger. Yes. And there's nothing we can do? Clara didn't answer. Carver exhaled slowly. You know something. I know men like that don't stop. They regroup, they adapt, and they finish the job. So what do we do? You protect him. I go back to work. Carver stared at her. That's it. That's it. Carver shook her head. You're unbelievable. I'm realistic. Carver holstered her weapon and adjusted her vest. You ever think about coming back? To the bureau. Clara's expression didn't change. No. Why not? Because I'm done hunting people. You just hunted 4 contractors without leaving this hallway. Clara met her eyes. I didn't hunt them. I stopped them. There's a difference. Carver was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Yeah, I guess there is. She turned and walked toward the stairwell. At the door, she stopped and looked back. For what it's worth, Carver said, you're one of the best I've ever worked with. Clara didn't respond. Carver left. The stairwell door closed, and Clara was alone again. The ICU was quiet now, too quiet. The emergency lights had been shut off. The regular fluorescence hummed back to life. The red glow faded, replaced by the sterile white Clara knew too well. She stood in the hallway, looking at the empty rooms. Room 12 was still open. The bed was gone. The monitors were dark. She walked inside. The floor was scuffed from the gurney wheels. The IV stand had been knocked over. The sheets were rumpled. Clara straightened the stand, folded the sheets, wiped down the monitor with a disinfectant cloth. No one would know what had happened here. By tomorrow, there would be another patient in this bed. Another name, another chart, another life. That was the job. She finished cleaning and stepped back into the hallway. At 7:52 a.m., the day shift arrived. Nurses filtered in with coffee cups and tired smiles. Doctors made their rounds. The hospital woke up slowly, the way it always did. Clara was at the nurses' station, finishing her notes. Sharon Mehta appeared beside her, looking concerned. Voss. You okay? Clara didn't look up. Fine. I heard there was some kind of federal thing. Lockdown, tactical team. There was. You were here. I was. You want to talk about it? No. You sure? Clara saved her notes and closed the screen. She stood and grabbed her bag from under the desk. I'm sure. Sharon studied her. You look tired. I am. Take tomorrow off. I'm on the schedule. I'll cover it. Clara looked at her. You don't have to do that. I know, but I'm going to. Clara held her gaze for a moment, then she nodded. Thank you, Sharon smiled. Get some sleep, Voss. Clara slung her bag over her shoulder and walked toward the exit. The parking lot was cold and gray under the early morning sky. Clara's car was a 10-year-old Honda Civic, reliable, unremarkable. She unlocked it, tossed her bag into the passenger seat, and slid behind the wheel. She didn't start the engine right away. She just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring through the windshield at nothing. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. Unknown number. She answered. This is Clara. Silence. Then a voice. Male. Calm. Deputy Director Voss. Clara's grip tightened on the phone. Who is this? Someone who knows what you did tonight. You cost us a contract, the voice continued. That's going to have consequences. Then you shouldn't have come to my hospital. The man on the other end exhaled slowly. You think this is over? I think you made a choice, and now you have to live with it. So do you? The line went dead. Clara lowered the phone slowly. She stared at it for 5 seconds. Then she started the engine and drove home. Her apartment was small. 1 bedroom, clean, functional. No pictures on the walls, no personal touches. just furniture and the faint smell of laundry detergent. Clara dropped her bag by the door, locked it behind her, and walked to the kitchen. She poured a glass of water, drank it, set the glass in the sink. Then she walked to the bedroom, pulled the blinds closed, and lay down on the bed. She didn't change out of her scrubs. She just closed her eyes, and within 2 minutes, she was asleep. But even in sleep, her hand stayed near the edge of the bed, close to the drawer of the nightstand, where a Glock 19 lay, fully loaded, safety off, old habits. The kind that kept you alive. Clara woke to the sound of her phone ringing. Her eyes opened immediately. No grogginess, no disorientation. She reached for the nightstand, checked the screen. 2:34 p.m., unknown number, she answered. This is Clara. Deputy Director Voss. This is Special Agent Hale. Clara sat up, swung her legs off the bed. What happened? Interstate 70, mile marker 184. 2 vehicles. Professional ambush. Clara's jaw tightened. Elijah, 2 more injured. We had to divert to a secondary location. Where? I can't tell you that over an open line. Then why are you calling? Hale was quiet for a moment. Because they knew our route. They knew our timeline, and they knew our vehicle configuration. Clara stood, walked to the window, pulled the blinds open slightly. The parking lot below was empty. Normal. You think there's a leak, Clara said. I think someone's feeding them information, and I think whoever it is has access to federal protocols. Clara's eyes scanned the parking lot again. A white van, 2 sedans, a pickup truck. Nothing unusual. But she made note of every license plate anyway. What do you need from me? She asked. I need you to come in, debrief, and I need you to tell me everything you observed about those contractors. Every detail, equipment, tactics, how they moved, how they talked. I already told Agent Carver. Carver's missing. What? She left the hospital at 0820 hours. Said she was heading back to the field office. She never arrived. Her vehicle was found abandoned in a parking garage downtown. No signs of struggle, just gone. Clara's hand tightened on the phone. How long has she been missing? 4 hours. And you're just telling me now. We've been trying to locate her. But we're out of options. Hale's voice dropped. Voss, I need your help. You know how these people operate. You've been inside their heads. If Carver's alive, we need to find her fast. Clara closed the blinds, turned away from the window. Send me the address, she said. You'll come in. I'll come in. Hale exhaled. Thank you. He hung up. Clara stood in the middle of her bedroom, phone still in her hand. She looked at the nightstand, at the drawer. Then she pulled it open and took out the Glock. She checked the magazine. 15 rounds. One in the chamber. She hadn't held it in 4 years. It felt exactly the same. The FBI field office was a glass and concrete building on the east side of the city. Clara arrived at 3:47 p.m. in her Civic, dressed in jeans and a gray sweater. No badge, no credentials, just a retired federal agent walking back into the world she'd left behind. Security stopped her at the front desk. Name and purpose, Clara Voss. Here to see Special Agent Hale. The guard checked his computer, then his radio. 1 moment. Hands in her pockets, eyes on the lobby. 4 exits, 2 cameras, 1 armed guard at the desk, 2 more near the elevators. Standard protocol. The guard's radio crackled. Send her up. He handed Clara a visitor badge. 6th floor. Agent Hale will meet you. Clara clipped the badge to her sweater and walked to the elevators. The 6th floor was all glass walls and gray carpet. Agents moved through the open workspace with purpose. Phones rang, keyboards clattered, screens glowed with data streams and surveillance feeds. Clara stepped off the elevator. Agent Hale was waiting. He looked older in the daylight, tired, the kind of tired that came from losing people. Deputy Director, he said. Just Clara. Hale nodded. This way. He led her through the workspace to a conference room in the back. Inside, a large screen displayed a map with red dots marking locations. 3 other agents were already inside. They stood when Clara entered. Hale gestured to them. This is my team. Agent Reyes, Tech Specialist, Agent Kim, Tactical Analysis, and Agent Brennan, Counterintelligence. Clara nodded to each of them. They nodded back, but their eyes were assessing. Skeptical, she was an outsider now. Hale closed the door. Let's get started. They ran through the timeline first. The ambush on Interstate 70. 2 black SUVs, both stolen. Professional drivers, coordinated assault. Flashbangs, suppressing fire. 1 operator down with a headshot. 2 more wounded. Elijah had been extracted under fire and moved to a safe house outside the city. But the contractors had known exactly where to hit. Exactly when. They had our route, Agent Kim said. She was mid-30s. Asian, sharp eyes behind thin-framed glasses. Down to the mile marker. Clara studied the map. How many people knew the route? 12, Hale said. My tactical team, DOJ oversight, and the transport coordinator. All vetted, all cleared. Clara walked closer to the screen. What about communications? Radio traffic? He was younger, early 30s, laptop open in front of him. Encrypted federal frequency. No unauthorized access detected. What about cell phones? Standard protocol. All personal devices were locked in the transport vehicle command center. No one had access during the operation. Clara turned to face Hale. Then the leak isn't coming from your team. Then where, higher up? The room went quiet. Agent Brennan leaned forward. He was older, 50s, gray hair, hard face. You're saying someone in DOJ is dirty? I'm saying someone with access to your operational protocols is feeding information to a private military contractor, Clara said. That's not a field agent. That's someone with clearance. Hale's face darkened. If that's true, then every move we make is compromised. It is true, Clara said quietly, because they also took Carver. Brennan frowned. What do you mean took? We don't know that she was abducted. She was. Clara's voice was flat, certain. Her vehicle was abandoned. No signs of struggle. That's not abduction by force. That's abduction by coercion. Explain. Clara pointed to the map. She left the hospital at 0820. Said she was heading to the field office. That's a 23-minute drive. But her car was found in a parking garage downtown, 15 minutes in the opposite direction. Maybe she made a stop, Kim said. For what? She was transporting a federal witness who'd just survived 2 attempts on his life. She wouldn't stop unless she had a reason, or unless someone gave her one. Hale's eyes narrowed. You think someone called her, told her to meet them. I think someone with authority she trusted told her to divert, and when she did, they took her. Why? Clara turned to face him. Because she knows the safe house location, and they're going to make her talk. The room went silent again. Reyes looked at his screen. If that's true, we need to move Elijah. Now. We can't, Hale said. We've already burned 2 secure locations. If we move him again without knowing where the leak is, they'll just hit us again. Then what do we do? Hale looked at Clara. What would you do? Then she said, I'd find Carver. They spent the next hour pulling everything. Carver's phone records, GPS data, credit card transactions, surveillance footage from the parking garage. The footage showed Carver pulling into the garage at 0837. She parked on the 3rd level, got out of her vehicle, and walked toward the stairwell. Then the feed cut. Camera malfunction? Kim asked. No, Reyes said, typing rapidly. Someone looped the feed. See the timestamp? It jumps from 0839 to 0843. 4 minutes missing. Can you recover it? It was overwritten. Clara leaned closer to the screen. Rewind to when she gets out of the car. Reyes rewound the footage. Clara watched Carver exit the vehicle. She wasn't hurrying, wasn't looking around nervously. She walked with purpose, like she was meeting someone. Freeze it, Clara said. The image froze. Clara pointed. Look at her hand. Carver's right hand was resting on the grip of her holstered weapon, not drawing it, just touching it. She was ready, Clara said, but not afraid, meaning she thought she was in control. Hale studied the image. She thought she was meeting a friendly, or someone she trusted. Brennan crossed his arms. So we're looking for someone inside DOJ, someone Carver would meet without backup, someone with access to operational intel. That's a short list, Hale said. How short? 6 people, maybe 7. Clara turned to him. Start making calls. At 6:18 p.m., Clara stood in the conference room alone. The others were making calls, running traces, pulling files. Clara stared at the map on the screen. 3 red dots, 3 locations where they'd been hit. The hospital, the interstate, the parking garage. She pulled out her notepad, drew lines between the dots. A pattern, a strategy. They weren't just attacking, they were hurting. Every hit pushed Elijah in a specific direction, toward a specific location. Clara's eyes moved to the outskirts of the map. Industrial district, warehouses, low population density. Perfect for an ambush. She circled it with her pen. The door opened behind her. Hale entered, phone in hand, face grim. We got a hit, he said. Carver's phone pinged a tower 40 minutes ago. East Industrial District. Clara didn't look surprised. Hale noticed. You knew. I guessed. How? Clara tapped the map. They're not hunting Elijah. They're positioning him. Every move we make, they're ready, because someone's telling them where we'll go. So what do we do? Clara turned to face him. You stop reacting, and you start controlling the board. How? You give them what they want, but on your terms. Hale stared at her. You want to use Elijah as bait. I want to end this. Before they kill Carver. You don't know she's still alive. She is, because they need her to confirm the safe house location. Once they get it, she's dead. Hale's jaw tightened. And if we walk into a trap, then we make sure we're the ones setting it. Hale was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Tell me what you need. At 8:34 p.m., Clara stood in a warehouse on the east side of the city. It was cold, dark, the kind of place where bad things happened and no one noticed. She wasn't alone. Hale's tactical team was positioned on the perimeter, snipers on the rooftops, spotters in vehicles. Radio silence. Clara was inside, alone. No weapon, no vest. Just her and a radio earpiece. Voss, you don't have to do this. Hale's voice crackled softly in her ear. Yes, I do. We can send someone else. They won't talk to anyone else. Hale was quiet. Then, if this goes wrong, it won't. Clara walked deeper into the warehouse. Her footsteps echoed on the concrete floor. Overhead lights flickered. Shadows moved. And then she saw them. 3 figures, standing in the center of the warehouse. 2 men. 1 woman. Carver. Her hands were zip-tied behind her back. Her face was bruised. Blood crusted at the corner of her mouth. But she was alive. The 2 men flanking her wore tactical gear, weapons holstered but visible, and standing in front of them was the older contractor from the hospital. He looked at Clara and nodded slowly. Deputy Director, he said. Let her go, Clara said. You know I can't do that. You don't have a choice. The contractor smiled. You came alone, unarmed. That's either very brave or very stupid. It's tactical. How? Because you're surrounded by federal agents with orders to shoot if I don't walk out of here in 5 minutes. The contractor's smile faded. Clara took a step forward. You're done. Your contract is burned. Your team is compromised. And the man you're hunting is in federal custody with a protection detail you can't breach. Then why are you here? Because you have something I want. The agent. Yes. And what do I get? Clara met his eyes. You get to walk away. The contractor laughed. That's it? That's your offer? That's my offer. Take it. Or my team puts 3 rounds in your head before you can draw your weapon. The contractor's smile disappeared. He looked at Carver, then at Clara. You'd really let me walk? If you let her go. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded to one of his men. The man pulled a knife and cut Carver's zip ties. She stumbled forward. Clara caught her. Go, Clara said quietly. Carver looked at her. Voss, go. Carver turned and walked toward the exit. Clara stayed. The contractor watched her. You're different than I thought, he said. So are you. This isn't over. Yes, Clara said quietly. It is. She turned and walked away. Behind her, the contractor didn't move, and when Clara reached the exit, she heard his voice one last time. You should have killed me. Clara stopped, looked back. No, she said. I shouldn't have. And she walked out into the night. The command van was parked 3 blocks from the warehouse. Inside, screens glowed with thermal imaging, drone feeds, and real-time communications data. Agent Hale stood at the center, headset on, watching Clara's vitals on a biometric monitor. When Clara emerged from the warehouse with Carver, he exhaled for the first time in 7 minutes. All units, stand down. Targets are exiting. Do not engage unless fired upon. Acknowledgements came back in clipped responses. Clara helped Carver across the empty lot toward the van. Carver was limping slightly, favoring her right leg. Her face was pale under the streetlights. The van door slid open. Medics reached out, guiding Carver inside. Clara started to turn away. Voss. Hale's voice stopped her. She looked back. Get in, he said. We need to debrief. I need to get back to the hospital. My shift starts in 3 hours. Hale stepped closer. His voice dropped. Clara, please. Something in his tone made her stop. She climbed into the van. Inside, Carver was being treated by a medic. Split lip, bruised ribs, minor lacerations. Nothing critical, but her hands were shaking. Clara sat across from her. Hale stood near the monitors, arms folded. What did they want? Hale asked. Carver looked up, wiping blood from her mouth. The safe house location. They asked me 4 times. Did you tell them? No. How'd they take you? Carver's jaw tightened. I got a call. 08. 35 hours. Blocked number. Male voice. Said he was Deputy Assistant Director Morales from DOJ Oversight. Said there was a security issue with the transport. Told me to meet him in the parking garage downtown to discuss it face to face. Confidential. And you went, Clara said quietly. I verified the callback number. It matched DOJ's internal directory. So yeah, I went. Carver's voice hardened. When I got there, 2 men were waiting. They knew my name, knew my assignment. One of them showed me a DOJ credential that looked real. It probably was real, Clara said. Everyone looked at her. They didn't fake it, Clara continued. They had someone inside DOJ make the call, someone with access to the directory, someone Carver would trust. Hale's face darkened. Morales, maybe, or someone using his credentials. Agent Reyes was already typing on his laptop. I'm pulling call logs now, checking for any outbound calls from Morales' line at 0835. They waited. The medic finished bandaging Carver's hand and stepped back. Reyes stopped typing, looked up. No calls from Morales' line. But, he frowned, there was a call made from his office landline. Except his calendar shows he was in a meeting at Main Justice. He wasn't at his desk. Who was? Hale asked. Unknown. The building has keycard access logs, but that line can be accessed by anyone in the executive suite. Clara stood. How many people have access to that suite? 8, maybe 10. Get me their names. Reyes pulled up a list, projected it onto the main screen. 10 names, all senior officials, deputy directors, assistant directors, division chiefs. Clara studied the list. Her eyes moved slowly down each name, then stopped. Him, she said, pointing. Hale looked. Deputy Director Nathaniel Cross, Counterintelligence Division. I know him, Clara said quietly. How? I worked under him 12 years ago, before I went to tactical operations. Hale's eyes narrowed. You think he's the leak. I think he's the only one on that list who knows how I operate. That's not evidence. No, but it's a place to start. Hale pulled out his phone. Dialed, waited. This is Special Agent Hale, Tactical Response Unit. I need an immediate status check on Deputy Director Nathaniel Cross. Location, schedule, current assignment. A pause. What do you mean he's not in the building? Clara's eyes didn't leave the screen. Hale's voice tightened. When did he leave? And no. One thought to log it. No, I need his last known location. Now. He hung up, looked at Clara. Cross left the building 2 hours ago, said he was going home, but he didn't sign out through security. Just walked out through the executive garage. Camera footage? Clara asked. Already pulled it. Reyes typed rapidly. A new video feed appeared on screen. It showed Cross walking through the garage. Mid-50s. Gray suit. Briefcase in hand. He moved calmly, deliberately. He got into a black sedan. Government plates. And drove away. Where's his house? Clara asked. Arlington, 20 minutes from here. Clara turned to Hale. Send a unit. But don't approach. Just confirm he's there. And if he's not? Clara's voice went cold. Then we find him. At 9:47 p.m., the response came back. Cross wasn't home. His house was dark. His vehicle wasn't in the driveway. His wife said he'd called earlier, said he'd be working late. Hale put the phone down and looked at Clara. He's gone. Clara nodded slowly. He's meeting them. Who? Whoever's running the contractors. Whoever hired them to kill Elijah. Agent Kim spoke up. But why? What does Cross gain from this? Or leverage. Or both. It doesn't matter. What matters is stopping him before he gives them what they need. Which is the safe house location. Carver sat forward, grimacing. He doesn't have it. Only Hale and I know where Elijah is. Clara looked at her. You sure? Positive. We moved him to an off-book location. No DOJ oversight. No federal database. Just us. Who arranged the safe house? I did. Personally. Through what channels? Private contractor, former agent. Runs a security firm. I've used him before. He's clean. Name? Vincent Shaw. Clara went still. Hale noticed. You know him? I know of him. He left the bureau 8 years ago. Started a private firm. Works exclusively with federal contracts. That's him. Clara's eyes moved back to the screen. To Cross's image. Call Shaw, she said. Now. Hale dialed. It rang 6 times. Then voicemail. Shaw, this is Hale. Call me immediately. Priority 1. He hung up. Tried again. Same result. Clara's hand moved to her pocket, pulled out her phone, dialed a number she hadn't called in 4 years. It rang twice. A voice answered. Male, older, gravelly. Voss. That you? It's me, Frank. Jesus. Thought you were dead. Not yet. I need a favor. Always do. What is it? I need a location on Vincent Shaw, former FBI. Runs a security firm called Apex Guardian Solutions. What's he done? Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Frank was quiet for a moment. Give me 5 minutes. The line went dead. Clara lowered her phone. Hale was staring at her. Who was that? Someone I used to work with. He specializes in finding people who don't want to be found. You trust him? More than I trust anyone in this building. They waited. 5 minutes felt like an hour. Then Clara's phone buzzed. A text message. One line. An address. Got it, Clara said. Hale leaned in. Where? Industrial Park. East side. 2 miles from the warehouse we just left. Hale's face tightened. That's not a coincidence. No, it's not. He turned to his team. Suit up. Full tactical. We move in 10 minutes. Clara stood. I'm coming with you. No, you're not. Yes, I am. Hale stepped closer. Voss, you're not active duty. You don't have a badge. You don't have authority. I have 18 years of field experience, and I know Cross better than anyone in this van. Clara's voice was calm but unyielding. You need me. Hale stared at her. Then he nodded. Fine, but you stay behind the tactical line. You don't engage. Understood. Hale turned away. Already coordinating. Carver grabbed Clara's arm. Voss, be careful. I'm always careful. I'm serious. Cross isn't just dirty. He's smart. And if he's working with Shaw, that means he's got private security, former operators, people who know how we work. I know. Then you know this could go bad. Clara's expression didn't change. It already has. At 10:23 p.m., 4 black SUVs rolled silently through the industrial park. No lights, no sirens, just shadows moving through the dark. Clara sat in the second vehicle, wearing a borrowed tactical vest. No weapon. Hale had made that clear. You observe, you advise. You do not engage. The vehicles stopped 2 blocks from the target building, a 3-story structure with boarded windows and a chain-link fence. The sign out front read, Shaw Security Solutions. Hale's voice crackled over the radio. All units, dismount. Perimeter teams establish containment. Entry team on my mark. Operators moved like ghosts. Fast, silent, professional. Clara stayed with Hale near the command vehicle. Through night vision optics, she watched the tactical team approach the building. Thermal imaging showed 4 heat signatures inside. Ground floor, central room, 4 targets, the spotter reported. 2 stationary, 2 mobile. Can you identify? Hale asked. Negative. Too much interference. The 2 stationary signatures were sitting, the 2 mobile were pacing. The stationary ones are hostages, Clara said quietly. Hale looked at her. How do you know? Body language. They're not moving because they can't. They're restrained. Or dead. No. Dead bodies cool. These are still warm. Still breathing. Hale nodded. Keyed his radio. Entry team, we have possible hostages. Rules of engagement. Confirm targets before firing. Copy that. The team reached the entrance. Stacked up. Breacher ready with a battering ram. On my mark, Hale said. 3, 2, 1, execute. The door exploded inward. Flashbangs detonated. Shouting. Movement. Chaos on the thermal feed. Then gunfire. Short bursts. Controlled. Clara's hand instinctively moved toward her hip. But there was no weapon there. Shots fired, a voice yelled over the radio. 2 hostiles down. Building not secure. Repeat, not secure. Secondary exit, Hale demanded. Negative visual. Wait, we've got movement. East side. Someone's running. Clara was already moving. Voss, stop, Hale shouted. She didn't. She ran toward the building, cutting left through the fence line, moving toward the east wall. A figure burst through a side door. Male. Dark clothing. Running hard. Clara angled to intercept. He didn't see her until it was too late. She stepped into his path, planted her feet. He tried to swerve. Clara moved with him, used his momentum, swept his legs. He went down hard. Concrete, his weapon. A compact submachine gun skittered away. Clara was on him in a second, knee on his back, hand on the back of his neck. Don't move. I'm not armed. You were 10 seconds ago. Footsteps behind her. Tactical team. Weapons raised. Voss stepped back. Clara stayed where she was. She grabbed the man's shoulder, flipped him over. Mid-40s. Caucasian. Tactical vest. No ID. But she recognized him. Vincent Shaw, she said quietly. His eyes widened. Voss, where's Cross? I don't. Clara pressed harder on his chest. Where is Cross? Shaw grimaced. Inside, central office. But you're too late. Too late for what? Shaw smiled. Blood on his teeth. He already made the call. Clara's stomach dropped. She stood, looked at the tactical operators. Secure him, now. They moved in, cuffed Shaw, dragged him to his feet. Clara ran toward the building. Inside, the air smelled like gunpowder and ozone. 2 bodies on the floor. Contractors, both dead. Hale's team had cleared the front room. They were moving toward the back. Clara followed. Down a narrow hallway, flickering lights, blood on the walls, a door at the end, partially open. Hale reached it first. Weapon up, he kicked it open. Inside, an office, desk, computer, and 2 people. One was Nathaniel Cross, hands zip-tied to a chair, face bruised, bleeding from a cut above his eye. The other was a man Clara didn't recognize. Tall, 50s, dark suit, holding a phone. He looked up when they entered and smiled. Deputy Director Voss, he said calmly, I was hoping you'd be here. Hale's weapon trained on him. Put the phone down. Hands where I can see them. The man didn't move. I've already made the call. Your witness is dead, or will be in the next 5 minutes. Clara stepped forward. Who are you? Someone who understands how the game is played. Better than you. Better than him. He nodded toward Cross. Better than all of you. Who hired you? The man's smile widened. Everyone. No one. Does it matter? The contract is fulfilled. The witness is gone. And you, he looked directly at Clara, you couldn't stop it. Hale's voice was ice. Hands. Now. The man slowly set the phone on the desk, raised his hands, but his eyes never left Clara. You should have stayed retired, Deputy Director. Clara met his gaze. So should you. Hale's team moved in, cuffed the man, dragged him out. Clara turned to Cross. His head hung low. Blood dripped onto his shirt. Why? Clara asked quietly. Cross looked up. His eyes were hollow, broken. They have my daughter, he whispered. They said if I didn't help them, they'd kill her. Clara's expression didn't change. Where is she? I don't know. I swear I don't know. Hale stepped forward. Where's the safe house, Cross? Cross's voice cracked. I gave them the address 10 minutes ago. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Clara turned and ran. Outside, she grabbed Hale's radio. All units. This is Voss. The safe house is compromised. We need immediate response. Now. Static. Then a voice. Younger. Panicked. This is Safe House Alpha. We're under attack. Multiple hostiles. We need. Gunfire. Shouting. The radio went dead. Clara looked at Hale. He was already moving. Go, go, go. Clara climbed into the lead SUV, and as they raced through the night, she made herself a promise. This ends tonight, one way or another. The safe house was 32 miles outside the city, a 2-story farmhouse at the end of a gravel road. Isolated, defensible, or it should have been. Clara sat in the passenger seat of the lead SUV, watching the speedometer climb past 90. Hale was driving, jaw clenched, knuckles white on the wheel. Behind them, 3 more vehicles. 12 operators total, full tactical loadout, but 32 miles might as well be 1,000. The radio crackled intermittently. Bursts of static, fragments of voices. Gunfire in the background. Taking fire from the tree line. Man down, man down. Can't hold them. Then nothing. Clara pulled out her phone. Checked the map. 23 miles to go. She looked at Hale. How many operators were at the safe house? 4. Plus Elijah. 4 against how many? We don't know. They wouldn't come with less than 8. Probably 10. How do you know? Because that's what I'd do. Hale pressed harder on the accelerator. The SUV's engine roared. At 11:04 p.m., they turned onto the gravel road. No lights, engines cut to idle. They rolled the last quarter mile in near silence. Through the trees ahead, Clara could see the farmhouse. The porch light was on. Windows glowed yellow. Too normal. Hale stopped the vehicle. Keyed his radio. All units dismount. Weapons hot. Approach on foot. No lights. No comms unless contact. The operators moved out like shadows. Clara followed. She still had no weapon. Just the vest. And her training. They advanced through the trees in a staggered formation. Slow, controlled. Clara's eyes scanned the perimeter, looking for movement, heat, anything. The gravel driveway was empty. 2 vehicles parked near the house, standard federal sedans, but no operators, no guards. Hale raised a fist. Everyone stopped. He pointed to 2 operators, sent them around the east side, 2 more to the west. Clara stayed with the main element. They reached the porch. Hale signaled to the breacher. The operator moved to the door, tested the knob. It turned, unlocked. Hale's eyes narrowed. Clara leaned close, whispered, "It's a trap. I know. Then why are we going in?" "Because Elijah might still be alive." Clara didn't argue. She just stepped back and let the tactical team do their job. The breacher pushed the door open slowly. No flashbangs, no noise, just darkness and silence. The team flowed inside, weapons up, night vision active. Clara followed. The interior of the farmhouse smelled like gun oil and copper. Blood. Clara's eyes adjusted to the dim light. The living room was intact. Furniture undisturbed. TV still on, muted. But there was blood on the floor, a trail leading toward the kitchen. Hale moved forward. Operators fanned out, clearing rooms. Clear. In the kitchen, one of the operators knelt beside a body. Federal agent. Late 20s. Gunshot wounds to the chest. Dead. The operator checked for a pulse anyway. Shook his head. Hale's face was stone. Find the others. They moved through the house. Upstairs. Bedrooms. Bathroom. 2 more bodies. Both operators. Both dead. Execution style. Single shots to the head. Clara stood in the upstairs hallway, staring at the scene. Professional. Efficient. No hesitation. These weren't contractors. These were killers. Hale's voice crackled over the radio. "Where's the 4th? An operator responded from outside. "Found him. Basement access. East side." The basement door was hidden beneath a rug in the back bedroom. It stood open, steps leading down into darkness. Hale went first, weapon raised. Flashlight mounted. Clara followed. The basement was unfinished. Concrete walls, low ceiling, a single bulb hanging from a wire, swaying slightly. In the center of the room, the fourth operator, alive, barely. He was tied to a chair, head slumped forward, breathing shallow, blood pooled beneath him. Hale moved to him. Medic, now! The medic rushed down the stairs. Kit in hand, Clara scanned the room. No Elijah, no hostiles. Just the operator, and a small table beside him. On the table, a phone. Screen lit, video paused. Clara walked over, pressed play. The screen showed Elijah, alive, bound, gagged, in the back of a vehicle. A voice spoke from off-camera. Calm, professional. Deputy Director Voss. If you're watching this, it means you arrived too late. The witness is in our custody. He will be executed in 1 hour, unless you meet our terms. Clara's jaw tightened. The voice continued. You have something we need. Information. About an operation you ran 12 years ago. Codename, Nightfall. We know you were the lead case officer. We know you buried the files. And we know you're the only person who can access them. Clara's hand clenched. You have 1 hour. Come alone. Unarmed. To the coordinates we're sending to the agent's phone. If you comply, the witness lives. If you don't, he dies. And so does everyone you've tried to protect tonight. The video ended. The phone buzzed. A text message. Coordinates. Clara stared at the screen. Hale stepped beside her. Nightfall. What is that? Clara didn't answer immediately. Her mind was back. 12 years. A cold night. A warehouse. Bodies. Voss. Hale pressed. What was Nightfall? Clara looked at him. A mistake. What kind of mistake? The kind that gets people killed. Hale's eyes narrowed. You're not going. It's obviously a trap. I know. Then. But I'm going anyway. Voss. Clara turned to face him fully. They have Elijah. They have leverage. And they have information about an operation that was buried for a reason. If I don't go, Elijah dies, and everything I worked to protect 12 years ago comes out. What did you protect? People who didn't deserve to die for doing the right thing. Hale stared at her. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. She picked up the phone. Checked the coordinates. 20 miles north. Abandoned industrial complex. The kind of place with no witnesses and 100 places to hide bodies. Clara handed the phone to Hale. You have 47 minutes. Use them. To do what? To get your team in position. Because I'm going to walk in there, give them what they want, and walk out with Elijah. And when I do, you're going to hit them with everything you have. Hale's expression was grim. That's not a plan. That's suicide. No, Clara said quietly. It's tactical. At 11:39 p.m., Clara stood at the edge of the industrial complex. It was massive. 6 buildings, rusted metal, broken windows, graffiti on every surface, perfect for an ambush. She walked forward, alone, unarmed, hands visible. Behind her, half a mile back, Hale's team was moving into position. Snipers, entry teams, drones overhead, but Clara couldn't think about them. She had to focus. She reached the main building. The door was open. She stepped inside. The interior was dark, cold, the smell of rust and decay. Clara's footsteps echoed. She walked deeper. Through a hallway into a large open space that used to be a factory floor. In the center, Elijah, still tied to a chair, head down, breathing, alive, and surrounding him. 6 men, tactical gear, weapons raised. One of them stepped forward, older, 50s, the same man from Cross's office. He smiled. Deputy Director Voss, right on time. Clara stopped 10 feet away. Let him go. Not yet. First, we talk about Nightfall. There's nothing to talk about. I disagree. Nightfall was an unsanctioned operation. Off book, no oversight. You and your team took down a trafficking ring, killed 8 people, and buried the evidence. Clara's expression didn't change. They were trafficking children. They deserved worse than they got. Maybe, but you broke the law doing it. And if that comes out, your entire career, everything you've built, falls apart. I retired. I don't have a career anymore. The man laughed. You think this is about you? Nightfall wasn't just your operation. You had help. Federal judges, prosecutors, politicians, people who are still in power, people who would do anything to keep that operation buried. Who hired you? Does it matter? Yes. The man shrugged. Let's just say certain people want insurance, leverage, control. And the files from Nightfall give them exactly that. I don't have the files. Yes, you do. They're encrypted, stored on a secure server, and you're the only one with the access codes. The man stepped closer. Give me the codes. I let the witness go. Everyone walks away. And then what? You use those files to blackmail everyone involved? That's not your concern. Clara looked at Elijah. His head lifted slightly. Their eyes met. He was hurt, exhausted, but alive. She looked back at the man. If I give you the codes, how do I know you'll let him go? You don't, but you don't have a choice. Clara was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Fine. Every weapon in the room trained on her. Slowly, the man warned. Clara pulled out a small piece of paper, unfolded it. She held it up. The access codes. 12 digits. Alphanumeric. The man gestured. One of his men stepped forward, took the paper. He read it, nodded. It's a valid format. The man smiled. See? That wasn't so hard. The man tilted his head. One more thing. We had a deal. I know, but I lied. He raised his weapon. Clara didn't move. The man's finger tightened on the trigger. Then the lights went out. Chaos, shouting, gunfire, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Clara dropped to the ground, rolled left. A spotlight exploded through the skylight above. Rope descended. Tactical operators fast roped into the building. Hale's voice boomed over a megaphone. Federal agents, drop your weapons. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes in the dark. Clara stayed low, crawled toward Elijah. Bullets whipped overhead. Concrete chips exploded around her. She reached Elijah, pulled a knife from her vest, borrowed from one of Hale's operators before she left. She cut his restraints. Can you walk? She asked. He nodded, gasping. Yeah. Then move. She pulled him to his feet. They ran. Behind them, the firefight intensified. Contractors returning fire. Operators advancing. Clara pushed Elijah toward the exit. Go. Don't stop. What about you? I'll be right behind you. He hesitated. Go, she shouted. He ran. Clara turned back. The man, their leader, was retreating toward a side exit, firing as he moved. Clara ran after him. She caught him in a narrow corridor. He spun, weapon raised. Clara was faster. She closed the distance, knocked the weapon aside with her left hand, drove her right elbow into his jaw. He staggered, swung back. She blocked, countered, swept his legs. He went down. Clara was on him, knee on his chest, hand on his throat. Who hired you? She demanded. He smiled through broken teeth. You'll never know. Tell me. He laughed. Blood bubbled from his lips. You think you won? You didn't. The codes you gave me, they're already being used. By the time you get back, the files will be gone. And everyone you tried to protect will be exposed. Clara's hand tightened. I didn't give you the real codes. His smile faltered. I gave you a decoy. The real codes are memorized, and they're encrypted with a biometric lock, mine, which means no one can access those files unless I authorize it. The man's face went pale. You. I lied, Clara said quietly. Just like you. She stood, looked down at him. Federal agents are going to take you into custody. You're going to tell them everything. Who hired you, who you work for, every name, every contact. And if I don't, Clara's voice dropped, cold, final. Then I'll come back, and next time I won't be this nice. She turned and walked away. Behind her, tactical operators moved in, cuffed the man, dragged him out. Outside, the industrial complex was lit by floodlights. Contractors lined up, hands cuffed, on their knees. Elijah sat in the back of an ambulance, medics checking his wounds. Clara walked over. He looked up. You okay? I should be asking you that. I'm alive thanks to you. Clara nodded. You'll be safe now. Will I? Clara didn't answer, because she didn't know. Hale approached. It's over, Voss. We got them all. Clara looked at the prisoners, then at Hale. It's not over, she said quietly. Not yet. What do you mean? Someone hired them, someone with money, power, access. Until we find out who, Elijah's still a target. Hale's face was grim. We'll find them. I know you will. She started to walk away. Voss, Hale called. She stopped, looked back. Thank you, he said. Clara nodded once. Then she disappeared into the night. The sky was beginning to lighten when Clara finally left the industrial complex. Not dawn yet, just that gray hour before sunrise, when the world existed in suspended stillness. She walked past the ambulances, the federal vehicles, the clusters of agents giving statements and filling out reports. No one stopped her. A few nodded. Most didn't notice. She was invisible again. Her Civic was parked where she'd left it, half a mile down the access road. She'd walked from there to the complex, alone, unarmed, ready to trade her life for information that might save someone else. She climbed into the driver's seat and sat there, hands on the wheel, engine off. The adrenaline was gone now. In its place, exhaustion, the kind that settled into bones and stayed. Her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Text message. Agent Hale. Come to the field office at 0900. Director wants to see you. Clara deleted the message. Then she started the engine and drove home. Her apartment was exactly as she'd left it. Dark, quiet, untouched. Clara locked the door behind her, set her keys on the counter, walked to the bedroom. She pulled off the borrowed tactical vest, set it on the chair. Her sweater was torn at the shoulder, blood, not hers, on the sleeve. She peeled it off, dropped it in the hamper. In the bathroom, she turned on the shower, waited for the water to heat, stepped under the spray. The water ran gray, then pink, then clear. She stood there for 10 minutes, maybe 15. When she finally stepped out, the mirror was fogged. She wiped it with her hand. The face looking back was the same as always. Tired eyes, lines at the corners, gray in her hair. A nurse, middle-aged, forgettable. She got dressed, clean scrubs from the closet, pale blue, same as always. She checked her watch, 6:47 a.m. Her shift started at 7 o'clock. She grabbed her bag, her keys, and left. County General looked the same as it had 48 hours ago. Same glass doors, same lobby, same smell of antiseptic and industrial cleaner. Clara walked through security, badge scan, nod from the guard. She took the elevator to the 6th floor, the ICU. When the doors opened, the familiar hum of monitors and ventilators greeted her, staff moving between rooms. Phones ringing softly at the nurse's station. Sharon Mehta was there reviewing charts. She looked up when Clara approached. Voss, you're back. I'm always back. You look like hell. Long night. I heard. Sharon set down her pen. Federal agents were here yesterday, asking about you, about what happened 2 nights ago. Clara set her bag under the desk. What did you tell them? That you're the best nurse I've got, and that whatever happened, I'm sure you did the right thing. Thank you, Sharon nodded. But Voss, next time something like that happens, tell me. Don't just handle it alone. There won't be a next time. You sure about that? Clara didn't answer. Sharon sighed. Your assignments posted, rooms 4 through 9, standard rotations. Nothing exciting. Good. Clara pulled up the patient charts on the computer, started reading. Behind her, Sharon lingered for a moment longer, then she walked away. Room 4, Mr. Delgado. Post-surgical recovery. Vitals stable. Clara checked his IV, adjusted the flow, made a note. He was still asleep, peaceful. She moved to room 5. Mrs. Patel, pneumonia, oxygen saturation improving. Clara listened to her lungs, counted breaths, made another note. Mrs. Patel opened her eyes slightly. Nurse, I'm here, Clara said quietly. Am I getting better? Clara looked at the monitor, then back at her patient. Yes, she said. You are. Mrs. Patel smiled weakly, closed her eyes. Clara finished her assessment and moved to the next room. At 9:14 a.m., Clara was restocking supplies when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then she did. This is Clara. Deputy Director Voss. This is Director Amanda Kirsch, FBI. Clara stopped what she was doing. Director, I understand you've had a long night, but I'd like to speak with you. In person. Today. I'm working. I can send a car to pick you up at noon. It won't take long. Ms. Voss, Kirsch continued, her tone firm but not unkind. You saved the life of a federal witness. You exposed a leak inside the Department of Justice. And you did it all while working the night shift at a hospital. I think the least I can do is thank you personally. You don't need to thank me. Maybe not, but I'd still like to talk. Patients, monitors, the rhythm of the ICU. I can meet you at 1400 hours, Clara said, but I'm not coming to the field office. Where, then? A diner? Kirsch asked. Yes. Another pause. Then, fine, I'll see you there. The line went dead. Clara put her phone away and went back to work. The diner was on the east side of the city. Small. Old. The kind of place where the coffee was always hot and no one asked questions. Clara arrived at 1:55 p.m. She ordered coffee. Black. Sat in a booth near the window. At 2 p.m. exactly, a black sedan pulled into the parking lot. A woman stepped out. Late 50s, sharp suit, gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She moved with authority, the kind that came from decades of command. Director Amanda Kirsch. She entered the diner, looked around, saw Clara. She walked over and slid into the booth across from her. Deputy Director Voss. Just Clara. Kirsch studied her for a moment. Then she nodded. Clara. A waitress came over. Kirsch ordered coffee. The waitress left. Kirsch folded her hands on the table. I read your file. I'm sure you did. 22 years with the Bureau. Tactical Operations Unit. Deputy Director by 39. Impeccable record. No disciplinary actions. 3 commendations for valor. And then, 4 years ago, you retired. No explanation. Just a letter of resignation. Clara sipped her coffee. I had my reasons. I'm sure you did. But those reasons cost the Bureau one of its best operators. Clara met her eyes. The Bureau survived. It did, but that doesn't mean we didn't miss you. Clara didn't respond. Kirsch leaned back. Agent Hale gave me his report. He said you walked into a hostage situation unarmed, negotiated the release of Agent Carver, then walked into a second ambush to save a witness you'd never met. I did my job. You're not FBI anymore. You didn't have a job. I'm a nurse. Protecting patients is my job. Kirsch smiled slightly. Elijah Moss wasn't your patient. He was in a hospital, under my care. That makes him my responsibility. Kirsch was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned forward. Nathaniel Cross confessed. He gave us everything. Names, accounts. The contractors were hired by a private intelligence firm, off-book, operating outside federal oversight. They were trying to protect a trafficking network that Elijah's testimony would have exposed. Clara's expression didn't change. And nightfall, Kirsch's eyes sharpened. The files are secure. We've confirmed that no one accessed them. Whatever leverage they thought they had, it's gone. Good. But I need to know something, Kirsch continued. The operation, Nightfall, it was unsanctioned. Off-book, you and your team took down a trafficking ring without authorization, killed 8 people, buried the evidence. Clara's voice was calm. Final, they were trafficking children, selling them. We had proof. But the case was being blocked by someone in DOJ, someone on their payroll. So we went around them. We found the ring. We shut it down. And yes, people died because they chose to fight rather than surrender. You broke the law. I saved lives. Kirsch held her gaze. And if I asked you to do it again, Clara didn't hesitate. I'd say no. Why? Because I'm not that person anymore. Kirsch studied her. Then she nodded slowly. Agent Hale thinks you are. He said you handled the situation last night better than most active operators. He wants you to come back. Tactical consultant. Advisory role. No field work unless you choose it. Clara shook her head. No. Why not? Because I'm done hunting people. I told you that. Last night you hunted 6 contractors and a corrupt deputy director. Last night I protected a witness. There's a difference. Kirsch was quiet. Then she reached into her jacket and pulled out a card. Set it on the table. If you change your mind, she said, call me any time. Clara looked at the card. Didn't touch it. Kirsch stood. For what it's worth, Clara, what you did was remarkable. Not just last night, but 4 years ago. Nightfall saved lives. Maybe it wasn't by the book, but it was the right thing to do. Clara looked up at her. If that's true, why was I the only one punished for it? Kirsch's expression softened. You weren't punished. You walked away. There's a difference. Is there? Kirsch didn't answer. She left a $20 bill on the table. Then she walked out. Clara sat alone. She looked at the card. Then at the coffee in front of her. After a long moment, she picked up the card and tore it in half. At 7 p.m., Clara was back at the ICU. Night shift. The hospital had quieted. Day staff filtered out. Night staff filtered in. The rhythm she knew. She stood at the nurse's station, reviewing patient charts. Behind her, footsteps approached. She turned. Elijah Moss. He was standing there in civilian clothes, jeans, t-shirt, bandage on his shoulder. He looked tired but alive. Mr. Moss, Clara said, you're supposed to be in federal custody. I was. They released me an hour ago. Witness protection, relocation, new identity, new life. He looked around. But I wanted to come here first. Why? To say thank you. Clara shook her head. You don't need to thank me. Yeah, I do. You saved my life. Twice you didn't have to. But you did. Clara was quiet. Elijah stepped closer. Why'd you do it? Because it was the right thing to do. That's it? That's it. Elijah smiled slightly. You know, I spent 10 years in Force Recon. I've worked with some of the best operators in the world, but I've never met anyone like you. I'm just a nurse. No, Elijah said quietly. You're not. He held out his hand. Clara looked at it, then shook it. "Good luck, Mr. Moss." "You too, ma'am." He turned and walked toward the elevator. Clara watched him go. Then she went back to work. At 2:37 a.m., the ICU was silent. Clara sat at the nurse's station, updating charts. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Monitors beeped softly in the distance. She heard footsteps, looked up. A man in a dark suit was walking toward her, mid-40s. Federal ID clipped to his belt. He stopped at the desk. "Deputy Director Voss." Clara set down her pen. "That's not my title anymore. My apologies. Miss Voss." He pulled an envelope from his jacket, set it on the desk. "This is for you, from Director Kirsch." Clara looked at the envelope, didn't touch it. "What is it?" "A commendation for your actions 2 nights ago, and a formal thank you from the Bureau." Clara stared at it. The man nodded once. "Have a good night, ma'am." He turned and walked away. Clara sat there for a long moment. Then she picked up the envelope, opened it. Inside, a letter, official Bureau letterhead, signed by Director Kirsch. "In recognition of extraordinary service and selfless dedication to the protection of others, the Federal Bureau of Investigation extends its deepest gratitude to Clara Voss." Clara read it once, then she folded it, slipped it back into the envelope, and placed it in the drawer under the desk, out of sight. At 7:30 a.m., Clara's shift ended. She clocked out, grabbed her bag, walked to her car. The sun was rising. The parking lot was filling with day shift workers. Clara sat in her Civic, hands on the wheel. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. She opened it. "Thank you, Elijah." Then she deleted it. She started the engine and drove home. 3 weeks later, Clara was restocking gauze in the supply closet when Sharon found her. "Voss, you've got a visitor." Clara looked up. "Who?" "Didn't say. Just asked for you. Says it's personal." Clara set down the supplies and walked to the waiting area. A woman stood there, mid-30s. Professional attire. Briefcase in hand. "Ms. Voss." "Yes." The woman extended her hand. "My name is Rachel Cross. Nathaniel Cross is my father." Clara didn't take her hand. "I know who he is." Rachel lowered her hand. "I wanted to thank you for what you did. My father told me everything. How they threatened me, how you stopped them, how you saved his life even after what he did." Clara's expression didn't change. "Your father made choices. He'll have to live with them." "I know, but he's alive because of you, and so am I." Clara was quiet. Rachel reached into her briefcase, pulled out an envelope. "He wanted me to give you this." Clara looked at it. "What is it?" "A letter, an apology, and an explanation." Rachel held it out. "Please, take it." Clara hesitated. Then she took the envelope. Rachel nodded. "Thank you, Miss Voss, for everything." She turned and walked away. Clara stood there, holding the envelope. She didn't open it. She walked back to the supply closet, tucked it into her bag, and went back to work. That night, Clara sat in her apartment. The envelope sat on the kitchen table. She stared at it for a long time. Then she opened it. Inside, a handwritten letter. 3 pages. She read it slowly. Cross explained everything. The threats, the fear, the choice he thought he had to make. He apologized. Over and over he said he didn't expect forgiveness. He just wanted her to know the truth. Clara read the letter twice. Then she folded it, slipped it back into the envelope, and set it aside. She didn't forgive him, but she understood, because she'd been there too, faced impossible choices, made decisions that haunted her. That's what the job did. It broke you, and you either walked away or it finished the job. Clara had walked away, and she'd found something else, something quieter, something that let her save lives without destroying her own. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city, lights flickering in the distance, lives being lived, stories unfolding, and somewhere out there, people needed help. They always did. Clara would be there. Not as deputy director, not as FBI, just as Clara Voss, a nurse who'd once been something more and chose to be something better. The end. Clara returned to her night shifts. The ICU remained her domain, quiet, methodical, invisible. But those who knew, Hale, Carver, Elijah, even Director Kirsch, understood the truth. She wasn't hiding. She was exactly where she needed to be, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, one patient at a time, one shift at a time. And if the world ever needed her again, if another threat emerged, another life hung in the balance, she would be ready. Not because she wanted to be, but because some people are built to stand in the gap, even when no one's watching, even when no one remembers, especially then.